Today we're going to talk about rotations and angles. In our math message, how many minutes does it take the minute hand to move through a full turn on the face of a clock? How about a half turn? 1/4 of a turn? Let's take a look at some tools that might help us in case you didn't know how to figure that out. We've got a clock, of course. If we think about a full turn, that means we're going to go all the way around the clock. That's going to be 60 minutes. 1/2 of a turn, so if you think half of an hour, it would be 30 minutes. 1/4 of a turn would be 15 minutes. So look what I've done here. We've got the clock that you were just looking at, and then it is inside of something that we call a full circle protractor. And you'll notice that this protractor has 2 rows of numbers. The top row, you will notice, has a 360, and then underneath that it has a 0. So if we are traveling going clockwise around the clock, that means to the right all the way around, we are going to use the bottom set of numbers. If we are traveling the opposite direction, then we're going to use the other set of numbers on the top of the full circle protractor. Okay, so with us putting the clock and the protractor together like this, helps you see that if I have a 1/4 of a turn on the clock, that means that that is going to be a 90-degree angle. Okay? Or depending on which direction we're going, it might be 270 degrees. All right? So if we did a half turn, that would be 180 degrees. 3/4 of a turn would be 270. And then, of course, a full circle would be 360. So if we go 3/4, it's going to be 45 minutes on the clock. 1/6. So this time, if we divided that clock into 6 spaces instead of 4, it would be 10 minutes. So that means I would have it divided here instead of where I have it. So we would have 6 places instead of 4. And 1/3, we would take all of these lines out and divide that into thirds, which is going to be 20 minutes. Okay, our thirds would be somewhat like this. Okay, we've got 3 sections, so 1/3 would be 20 minutes. If we had 2/3, it would be 40 minutes. Alright, so in this lesson, we're going to look at elapsed time, and we're going to use that elapsed time to write it as an angle measurement. That's why I was showing you the clock and the full circle protractor. We are also going to revisit making a bar graph, labeling it, and checking for accuracy. So let's start with our time and our angles. If I gave you a time and said from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, we would say that that's 60 minutes, and that would be 360 degrees in angle terms because it would be all the way around a full circle. If I said from 8 o'clock to 8:45, that's 45 minutes, which is 3/4 of a turn on the full circle protractor, which is 270 degrees. If I said from 5:30 to 5:50, that would be 20 minutes or 120 degrees. So I put both of those pictures up there for you to reference real quick if you want to look back at those problems and try to figure out how I got the degrees for each of those times. Now would be a good time to look at that and see if you can figure that out. And now we're going to talk about and revisit making a bar graph. So there's some things I want you to remember. We always have to have a title on our graph. You need to make sure that you label your sidebar and the bottom portion. And you need to color your bars correctly to match your data table. So making sure that those bars are the length that they are supposed to be and they correlate with the numbers on your data table. So for example, if this were a bar graph that I made, I've got a title at the top, Books Read Over the Summer. I have a label on the sidebar which says number of books with my numbers listed there, 1 through 10. I have some student names on the bottom and then a label for those names called students. So make sure that when you do your bar graph, because you will have to do one, that you have all of those things included in your bar graph. Alright, to summarize what we've talked about today, we saw that we can use a clock to help us with angle turns, and we reviewed bar graphs, labeling, and accuracy. And that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for watching.